All right, good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Just doing a quick check to make sure the audio is working properly. And we'll wait for people to get signed in. The training will take about an hour and a half, give or take. We'll mostly be in the dashboard, but we'll be getting into other parts of the system as well. We do record this training, so you can always come back and watch this later if you don't have the time to watch it all right now. If you have questions, please feel free to make use of the chat, and I will try to answer the questions as they come in. All right, on our screen here, you see our dash login page. This is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the VirtualPBX website. You just need to, there's a blue bar going across the top of the page, and there'll be a login link there as well as a support link there. Login link will obviously take you here. So to log in, we need your email address, which you use to sign up with us, or your admin used to create your user, your password, which was hopefully emailed to you, and then the account name, which is typically your company name. If you don't have your password, then over here, just above the sign-in bar on the right, you have a forgot your info link. If you click on that, we still need your email address, right? That's the one key piece of information. And then these bottom two here, we need one of them, right? So either the account name or a company phone number, right? A phone number your customers call in to get to the account. Then you would click on reset password. You'll get an email that will have a link to get you logged in. And at that point, you can change your password. It will log you out and bring you back to this page. And that's mostly so you can click on the Remember Me button. I do recommend bookmarking this page if you're an admin, so that way you can get here easily in the future. But let's go ahead and get signed in. Now, I'm using a test account that I've logged into several times, so it's going to start me off here on the dashboard. For you, if it's your first time logging in, you're actually going to get started on your account page. And you can always get here by clicking your name up here at the top right. So you can see your user email address, your password. You can edit your password, your own password here. For example, you can change your time zone. As an admin, I can also get to the account level settings. So I could change things like time zone, for example. Don't believe you can, you cannot yet change the account name. Now, as I mentioned that this is a test account, on your accounts, you'll also have a section underneath the billing area, or under the user, that's your billing information. So things like you can update your credit card information. You can see your service plan. You can edit who your billing contact is, right? The person's name, the address, their email, right? So that's the person who's getting the invoices. And you can see your previous invoices as well. Also, in that first login, right, the dash wizard has a pop-up boxes to highlight what these things are. Once you're done here, just click close over here to the top right, and then you'll be here in the dashboard. Now again, that first time logging in, the dash wizard is going to pop up, giving you highlights of things. I usually encourage you to go through it the first time. I've obviously seen the dashboard quite a few times, so I normally skip it whenever I have a new user. And up here at the top, so again, you can click on your name, get back to those account pages, and you can also see your billing information there. Many of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle, right? D&D for Do Not Disturb. And you can click on that, move it to the right. It'll be white at that point. That means your user is on Do Not Disturb. The reason I don't have it on my user here is because my user is part of an ACD queue. And the Do Not Disturb toggle and ACD queues do not work well together. So that's why it's been removed for me. Okay, we got the little question mark icon here. This opens up some other windows or tabs. Chat with us will open up a little chat window where you can ask questions of our support team. They can give you guides and what have you. The online store, this will open a brand new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, and this is where you can buy things like a physical VoIP phone, a router, etc. Learn more, this will also open a new tab, that will take you to our support pages. So you can see the various guides we have. We also have some videos, and the guides will have screenshots so you know what to look for. Now, this here is blank, but you can also have a web phone link here. The web phone link would only show up after you've added a web phone to your user. And then it just opens up tab that goes to webphone.virtualpbx.net. The web phone uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls. So just an extra device. Here we got the menu icon or hamburger icon, right? 3 horizontal lines. This takes you to other parts of the Dash system. Dashboard is where we're going to be for the majority of this training, but we will get to some of these others. Some like ACD queues do have fees associated with them, so I'll try to make sure to let you know what either needs a different plan, which might be a plan-specific feature, or just be an upgrade fee. Right here in the middle, we have total users, right? These are people on my account who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, so right, each person you add will increase your bill. Then I have my total devices. I have 29, and then a breakdown, right? Cell phone, it's pretty self-explanatory. Most of us have encountered a cell phone. A soft phone is a software application that acts like a phone. It uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So it's a kind of VoIP device. If you don't already know, VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, which is what Dash was built around in terms of making use of. The web phone, again, this is technically also a kind of soft phone and thus a kind of VoIP phone because it's using Chrome or Firefox, so it's software. And Chrome and Firefox use the internet, right? So kind of a VoIP device there. We have a SIP phone. This is a physical VoIP phone, right? So it sits on your desk. You can pick up the handset. You can push buttons to dial out. There are many kinds of VoIP phones on the market. SIP is a particular subtype. All right, then we have unregistered devices. This is telling me that I have 3 unregistered SIP phones, or VoIP phones, excuse me. Total numbers, these are my total phone numbers on the account. Most accounts include anywhere from 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. So I am paying overage. For the details of what your plan includes, you want to talk to our account services team. They can verify for you how many phone numbers are included and what your overages is per phone number if you go over that amount. We have a breakdown here. First is assigned numbers and spare numbers, right? An assigned number, you're using it, right? Someone can call that number and speak to someone, leave a voicemail, be sending a fax, or joining a conference, right? Spare number just means you're not using it. Still counts towards your allotment, but for instance, let's say you were running a Valentine's Day promotion. Now that Valentine's Day has passed, you could take that number and unassign it from where you were using it and make it into a spare number. So now you're not getting calls about a promotion that's no longer going on. All right. Down here, second breakdown, USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US-Canada toll-free, right? It's 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? If you want a number in Miami, Florida, it would show up under USDID, right? Likewise, if you want in Elmira, New York, it would show up also. You can have international numbers on your account. If you would like to acquire one, you need to send an email to our porting team. That's porting@virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in. If there are additional requirements, they will let you know what those requirements are. Once we get that documentation from you, we submit that to the basically that country's telephone regulatory service, basically make sure it's correct, and then we can get the number and add it to your account. All right, conference bridges. I have two. This just means I've enabled two of my users with the user feature for conferencing, so they can host or moderate a conference. Over here at the top right, I got my main numbers. So these 4 phone numbers, these all behave in the same fashion, right? So they're all going to the same location. They're all playing the same main greeting. All right, conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers if you want. This number is what everyone dials to get to the conference rooms, right? Whether they're a staff member, a client, or a vendor, they're all dialing this number. Fax box number, you can only have the one main fax box number, but this is where you're receiving faxes on. Your company directory, this is a download link. Oops. It downloads a CSV file. It has your users, their names, their extensions, and their primary device. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You would download this file and then upload it to the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app. And this allows you to see the presence or the status of your other users in relation to their soft phones, right? So if you have, say 5 users and you're all using the VirtualPBX soft phone, you could use this directory and you could tell when one of them is on call or if they're available. All right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a store discount code to use in that store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm. This is unique for each account. You need this for a couple different things. The first is to program a third-party application, right? So you're using a soft phone from someone else. You would need, this would be one of the 3 key pieces of information you would need to program that soft phone. The other thing it's used for is for sending a fax out. So in Dash, for faxing out, you just need to create an email, right? So your users have an email address used to log in, right? They need to create an email from that email address. In the to field of that email, +, number 1, area code and phone number they're faxing to, @ account realm, and then attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send, right? The system is not going to look at the subject line. It's not going to look at the message body, right? It's going to look at the to field. It's going to look at the from field and the attachment. Just one attachment per email. And again, it needs to be PDF or TIFF. Up here, we have the company caller ID, right? This would be the default caller ID for all your VoIP devices when they make an outbound call, as well as a couple other features. This pull down, which unfortunately won't show up properly here with the streaming software, but you can select any of your main numbers to be that default number. Then you have the company caller ID name. Right? This allows you to put in 15 characters, including spaces and special characters, that the system will include as part of your outbound caller ID. Now, after you enter in all this information and click on Save Changes, that company caller ID name information is transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. Unfortunately, not every carrier supports the company caller ID name. We can't make them do it. But for the ones who do, it takes about 3 business days for them to get updated. Now, when you make an outbound call, as I said, this information gets transmitted along with your phone number. If that call goes through a carrier that doesn't support the CNAM, right, the company caller ID name, then your company information doesn't go through, right? The phone number will still go through, but the text won't. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're calling cell phones, it's going to be hit or miss if it shows up. And that's mostly because the cell phone providers control what shows up on the phones on their network. Some of them require a fee from their subscribers to have the company caller ID name show up on all their calls. All right, now we have the company emergency information, right? This just needs to be a US or Canadian or Canadian address. And that is if someone picks up their VoIP phone and dials 911, the proper address information is transmitted to emergency services. Each of your phone numbers can have its own E911 information, and then you can assign each of your VoIP devices to one of those phone numbers in terms of having for E911 purposes. Any changes you make here, you want to click on Save Changes, so that way the system memorizes it, as well as for the company caller ID, that gets transmitted out to the other carriers. Hold music. So Dash will let you upload your own media files. It will accept .ogg, .mp3, and .wav files. You're going to want to make sure it's recorded in mono, not in stereo, and it's under 1 megabyte in size. And you would simply browse on your computer to find an appropriate file, click the little up arrow icon, and then click on Save Changes. Now, one thing to keep in mind about hold music on Dash, right? This Dash defines it as once a call has come to a user, the user has picked up the call and then press hold on their VoIP phone, that is when this hold music file will play. And this will be the default for all of your users. Now, hours is actually part of main number, so we'll just click on main number and work all the way down instead of skipping around. All right, up here at the top, we got main company numbers. So these are all the numbers that your customers can dial into. They'll get to the same main greeting, etc. If you don't want to use one of these numbers any longer as a main number, you would just click Unassign. So now I only have 3 numbers as my main numbers. Now, that phone number I unassigned, it's still on my account, right? It's now a spare number, so I can use it for something else, right? If I want to delete it, I have to get down to the Numbers tab, and I'll get to that when we get there. In terms of adding numbers, any place you can add a number. So whether here at the main number, down here for the conference number, for example, on a user, on a group, right? You're going to have the choice to add from spare numbers or buy new numbers, right? Add from spare numbers, that means you're using a number you already have on your account, right? So I can use any of these 4 numbers, right? Buying a number, that means I'm just adding a number to the account, right? You're not immediately charged for it. So toll-free is pretty simple, right? You choose the toll-free prefix you want to use, click search, and it will start populating at some point a list of available numbers. You click add, and it shows you have one in your cart. It shows the number. You have the option to remove it if you change your mind. You can add multiple phone numbers at once. And then you would click on buy numbers. And this is just the system verifying that, yes, that number was available, and then activating it and putting it on your account. Local numbers, slightly different in that you need to know the area code. Now, some area codes are exhausted, right? Not that they're tired, that's that there's no numbers available, right? 310, regional area code for Los Angeles, it's been exhausted for a while. If you need to have a number from an exhausted area code, you can send a request to our porting team. They can do what's called a back order. However, there's no guarantee we're going to get one, and we have no idea when we will get one if one does become available, because we're essentially waiting for someone to give up their phone number. So in this case, you'd want to go back to search, and you'd want to look for an overlay for the area that you're interested in, or a nearby area code, right? So Los Angeles has several area codes to choose from these days. So 424, and I can then pick one of these to add to my account and click on buy numbers. And beyond that, it's the same process. Now, numbers will show up with a little gear icon here. This is where you can adjust the caller ID, right? So each phone number can have its own outbound caller ID name. Plus, you can turn on the ability to have the inbound caller ID name information be transmitted and passed on to your staff members. All right, next up, we have the E911. So again, you can put a different address for each of your phone numbers. All right, and then we have prepend, which is a VoIP feature. You can add additional caller ID text in front of the phone number, right? So I can say LA promo, right? And if I click Save Changes. So now when calls come in on this phone number, as part of the caller ID that shows up on my staff members' VoIP phones, the words LA promo will show up. So now my staff member knows, oh, this is about the LA promo. I know what kind of greeting I can give the customer, or what kind of call I'm expecting to have. Right? It gives a heads up to your staff members. Go ahead and unassign that. All right. Next up, we have your office hour strategy. For a new sign up, right, your account starts off at 24-hour open office. Excuse me. Right? Or you can do custom office hours. If you decide to do so, for each day of the week you're open, you want to put a check mark in front of that day. And then you want to put your hours of operation in these boxes here to the right. This is in 24-hour or military time. Right? And I can say I'm closed for Saturday if I want to. You also down here at the bottom say, hey, if your whole office is closed for lunch, you can put a check mark here and then enter your lunch hours. And then any changes you make here towards the bottom right, click on Save Changes. Next up, office holidays. So if you're closed for holidays, put a check mark. And then here to the right, you have the option to add holidays. You have single day, date range, and advanced. So single day, like we have here for Halloween, you give it a name, choose the month, choose the date, click Save Changes, right? Date range, if we go down here to Xmas break, right? So you give it a name, I give it a start date and an end date. Now, notice that there's no year indicator. So you want to avoid a date range that has New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And you notice that's why I have a single day here for New Year's Eve, as well as a single day for New Year's Day. Now, the advanced is actually like Thanksgiving here, or the retreat, where you give it a name, you choose the month, then you choose 1st through 5th or last, and then the day of the week. And that way, every time that rolls around, it automatically happens. It doesn't matter what the actual date is. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes. Little trash can icon to the right if you want to remove a holiday. Excuse me. All right. Next up, we have incoming call handling. So this is in relation to your main numbers. Right? We have these tabs here: open hours, right? My after hours, because I said I'm only open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. And then holidays, because I said I'm closed for holidays, right? If I had said I'm also closed for lunch, I'd have a lunch hours tab. Now, these options are essentially identical, right? So calls come in and they during my open hours, they go to my virtual receptionist. I click on that. On the left here, main menu, right? This is what people press on their phone to navigate through my system. I click on Add Route. You have a pull down here. You have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. And here, this pull down here, this is where you want it to go, right? Smart PBX directory, dial by name directory, right? User directory, however you want to call it. You can also have calls go to a specific person, right? One of your users. If you have call queues, you can make queues a menu option. Devices, this means you're sending it to a specific phone. Now, in this case, you want to make sure that you're sending it to a device that has its own voicemail built into it. Otherwise, right, the person will keep ringing and ringing until they decide to hang up. Right, so like a VoIP phone doesn't usually have built-in voicemail, right? That's associated with the user on your Dash account. Media file, this is just a greeting file. When the greeting file stops playing, the call is ended. Groups, these are ring groups or hunt groups, right? Departments. So usually several people. Advanced call flows, this would be if you're making use of submenuing, and that requires multiple auto attendants, which is a plan-specific feature. And then lastly, a voicemail box, right? So people can just leave a message. Now, Over here on the right, we have your greeting options. First up is text-to-speech. You simply type in a greeting. You have 250 characters to work with. That will work every time. You can sometimes go over, but as from a consistency basis, 250 seems to always work. It's not words, characters. Once you click update, then you would click save and save changes. The system will name the file, in this case, main open hours menu TTS. It reuses that name for every one of these. Like if I come in here, even 5 minutes later and type in a new greeting or just make a small edit, it's still going to save this new one with main open hours menu TTS. So my recommendation is if you use a text-to-speech greeting, once you finish with it, right, click update, save changes, you want to go over to your greetings tab, which is over here on the left. It's grayed out right now, and then change the name so it's something you can recognize in case you need to switch back to it. Right, you can just say like test 1 if you wanted to. All right, you can upload your own file. Again, just find the file on your computer, .wave.mp3.ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. You can choose from something you've already added to the system, right? Whether you uploaded it, recorded it over the phone, or text-to-speech greeting, this pull down will show everything. You can record it over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone on the account. That's what it means when it says pick up a phone registered on this account, right? That's for whatever reasons they decided not to use VoIP phone, but what have you. But you would pick up a VoIP phone, you would dial your main number. Then you would enter this PIN number, and then the system will walk you through recording it over the phone. Now, a couple things. If you want to use a cell phone or a landline to record the main greeting over the phone, then under the settings tab here, you want this one here, allow outside recording. You want to turn that on, right? Save changes. Now you can use your cell phone or your landline to call in and record your main greeting over the phone. For new accounts, right now, when you call in, right, to your main number, it will tell you that a greeting for this menu has not been recorded. It will then prompt you to enter the PIN number. If you've been with us for a while, let's say your boss just said, hey, you're in charge of the phone system now, but you already have a greeting in place. So when you call your main number, right, that main greeting will play. If you enter the PIN number, the system will still recognize it and allow you to record a new greeting over the phone. However, you're going to overwrite that main greeting you just heard, right? It's going to keep the same file name. So greeting A is what was playing when you called in and you recorded over the phone. Greeting A, still the file name. It just now has that new data that you inputted. That can usually be problematic for the holidays, right? When people change greetings. Now, this PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So it's only going to work during my open hours because that's the menu we're on, right up here at the top. A main virtual receptionist open hours, right? It's going to be a different PIN number for after hours or holidays or lunch, right? So they only work during the time of day that they're in. Right, professional recording services, when you click order, it's going to open a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have their own packages, I should say. They bill on their own, right? They're separate from us, and they deliver to you via email. They occasionally have specials going on, so it's worthwhile. But basically, you order from them, they email you the file, and then you upload your own file. All right, settings. So first, we have number of retries on missed dial. This means how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake, right? So I'm saying right now it's set to 1, so they can make 1 mistake. So what that really means is they get 2 attempts, right? Because they call in, they hear the greeting, and let's say they press 5. Well, that's a mistake. That's their 1 mistake. So the system then replays the greeting. They can then enter in another menu option or an extension number. Now, if they hit something invalid a second time, then they would go to my default action, right? If I don't have a default action, I can just remove it by clicking that X there. Now, if they messed up a second time, the system would say, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. All right, dialing timeout. This is how much time the system listens for a button press, or actually how much times it listens for that second or third button press, right? So inbound caller comes in and presses 5. The system waits to a count of 5 and says, oh, you meant menu option 5, which does not exist. So it would say invalid entry and then replay the greeting. The default, the system says puts this at 10. I usually say, anywhere from 2 to 5 is typically plenty. We already talked about outside recording. So by default, allow dialing extensions is turned on. And that just means the inbound caller, if they know the extension they want to reach, they can enter it and the system will pass them on, right? If I turn this off, that means the inbound caller, they can only press these menu options, right? The system will deny them if entering an extension number, right? They can enter in, 550, and the system will say, do not recognize your entry until they are out of retries. And by default, this is turned on. And then we have down here, suppress playing of invalid entry. So if you don't want that message to come up saying, hey, we didn't recognize your entry, right? Because you made a mistake, you can turn that on and now that message won't play. So any changes you make under your main menu, your greetings or your settings, you want to click save here. You also need to make sure you click save changes here back under incoming call handling. All right, second option here, call is being offered to Aaron. If he doesn't pick up, then it goes to the virtual receptionist. This is a live operator answer option, right? So you're giving a staff member or multiple staff members a chance to answer the call first. And if they are not able to, then it goes to your virtual receptionist, right? So this is a pull down. You can select users. You can select a specific device. In this case, you don't have to worry about it having a voicemail or not, because after like 20 seconds, it's going to send it to the virtual receptionist anyway. Media file, I don't recommend this just because you're going to have 2 greeting files play, and that can confuse your customer. But you could do it if you want, if you have like a lot of instructions to give out. Groups, like front desk, for instance, right now that's multiple staff members. You could send it to a different attendant if you wanted to. And you should have had queues. I might have skipped through it too quickly. Yeah, you can also send it to call queues. But no matter what, so now we're still under our open hours. So this virtual receptionist, right, is the one we were just looking at. Now, if I change this to after hours, right, this virtual receptionist is different, right? Because it's a different time of day. So you can have different routing options and likely you'd have a different greeting. Right, here, you have the option, again, you can send it to a group, or a person, media file, etc. There's one additional option here, which is skip to voicemail, right? But basically, if you're offering it to a person, they don't pick up, it goes to the voicemail box you decide. Now, the skip to voicemail is I typically see for like a seasonal business or like a small 1 or 2 person shop. They said, hey, if we want to take a break, we're going to Hawaii for 2 weeks, to send all calls to voicemail. And then we have this one here, which is you can send it to your advanced call flows, meaning one of your secondary attendants. All right, main conference number. Again, you can add from spare numbers. You can buy more if you want to have multiple conference numbers. You have a custom greeting, which is text to speech, right? So 250 characters. Even without this enabled, when you call into your conference number, it says welcome to the conference, and then prompts you to enter your conference room number and then the PIN number, right? So this is where you would say, welcome to ABC Cleaners Conference, and then you can let the system take over from there. Fax box number, again, you can have just the one. So if I didn't have one here, I'd have the option to add from spare or by new. Once you've added a number, you want to click on Edit the Fax Box. So here, first up, you have the inbound notification, right? You just put an email address here, and this email address will get an email every time a fax comes in, right? The email will include an attachment, so they can just double-click on it and see the fax. In the body, there'll be, the date, the time, the phone numbers, etc. This person will, or this email address would also get a notification if someone dials your fax box number, right? Here's fax tones and hangs up, right? And instead of saying, hey, you have a successful fax, you're saying you had a failed inbound fax attempt. The email permissions, this is for outbound faxing. So you could put an email address here, but it's mostly designed so you can put your company domain, right? So that way everyone at your company can then send a fax out, even if they're not a user on your Dash account, right? They just need that proper format, the +1 area code, phone number, @ your account realm, and attach a PDF or TIFF. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, so it's available on some plans, but not every plan. This allows you to do a couple things. So first, I've already mentioned it, is submenuing, right? So if you want like 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, you would then create an attendant up here, give it a name, give it an extension, click on Create Attendant, and like I have a Chinese, I have a Spanish attendant, right? So then for these language-specific attendants, if I click on the settings here, right? I have open hours, after hours, right? These will match what we already set up under main number. But if I click on this virtual receptionist, then I can set up menu options so that they would, go to my Spanish-speaking staff members, right? I can then upload a greeting that's in Spanish, so that way my Spanish-speaking customers would understand more easily what to do and where to go. Right, the same would apply to Chinese. Now, the other reason you would create a secondary attendant is if you have multiple businesses. So let's say my main business is a cleaning business, but I also have a dog walking business that I call Pooch Walk, right? You notice here that this says unavailable in main menu, whereas my Spanish option here says available in main menu, right? This is a toggle, right? So I can switch it back and forth. But if I say it's available in main menu, right, it's a sub-menu option. It's going to show up places where I can add it, right? If I say unavailable in main menu, this is the only place it has access. That's why the attendants can have their own phone number or multiple phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or by new. And you can do that even with your attendants like Spanish, right? It can have its own phone number, right? So if you publicize a number for your Spanish-speaking customers, instead of having to go through the main system, you could do that. For the extensions, right, you can add multiple extensions. The extensions on the attendants is mostly for internal use, right? Your customers aren't likely to know these, but your staff members can then transfer people to the correct attendant or business, as the case may be. If you need to swap out an extension, I usually recommend add the new extension that you wanted to have first, right? Click Save Changes, and then come back and then unassign the extension you don't want it to have. And then again, when you click on this little wrench icon here under Settings, right? So these hours of operation, right? These all match your main system, right? So your main number settings. But these virtual receptionists, again, can be unique for each one of these attendants. If let's say you had multiple businesses and one's a 24/7 business and you have others that are 5 days a week, you probably need to look at having 2 accounts, but I would recommend talking to our account services team first and see if it's more, what's the best option, because it's possible that we could do a advanced configuration on your system that would allow you to have both on just one account, although that might limit what you can change on your own. All right, devices. This shows all your devices on your account. A red device means it's unregistered, meaning we cannot send calls to it. That could be simply because a person hasn't logged into, say, their soft phone or their web phone. Could be because they're having internet outage. Could be there's a router setting problem. Green device, that means it's registered, so we can send calls to it, we can get calls from it. A black device means you've turned it off. Right? If you turn it on, it will turn green. Up here, adding devices, SIP phone, again, that's that physical device that sits on your desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. I'm not sure, there seems to be an extra square there. Some manufacturers have a lot of models to choose from. Others, not so many. But no matter what, you want to choose your manufacturer, find the model of phone you want to work with, and then you give it a name, right? You can make it Andy's phone, right? Then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each device, often a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in with power, normally you go under like the basic settings or general settings. There'll be something called MAC, and that's what you would want to enter here. Then you would click on Create Device. And once you've done that, the only other thing you have to do is go to Users and add the device to a user. Now, within the dashboard, that means you're done. However, you're not done with the phone, right? You need to log into that phone's web user interface and enter in a URL, basically telling the phone, hey, get your config file here. It will then do so. It will reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device. Now, for the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots for these various manufacturers, so you know what to look for. The proper syntax for that URL, because it differs slightly from each manufacturer. There'll be also a couple of settings that we want you to verify that are set properly. But again, that's under the support pages, Auto Provisioning Phones. Cell phone and landline, pretty easy to do, and they're basically the same. You give it a name, right? So we can say Agatha's phone. And then you put +1 area code and phone number, click on Create Device. Now, we'll click here. Under Advanced Options, right? This is the default setup for a cell phone or a landline. So call comes in to your system, right? Comes to your user, then goes to your cell phone, right? Your cell phone rings, you click Accept, and then you're going to hear, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. Now, that works if it's a person, right, answering the call. If you're using this to, say, send calls to an automated answering service, right, that automated answering service won't know when to press 1 and doesn't have fingers to press 1, right? So in that case, you want to put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail, right? So now when we send a call to this device, right, when you pick up, right, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. We don't wait for the 1 tone, right? So for your automated answer service, that's great because then it just picks up, it handles the call, right? If it's actually going to your cell phone, if you don't pick up, but your cell phone voicemail picks up, we still treat that like a connected call, so that inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail box. That's up to you if you want that to happen or not, right? Some people want that, some people absolutely do not. The other thing that comes up sometimes is the keep original caller ID. So let's say customer Mary is calling you through your system, and when your cell phone rings, you see customer Mary's phone number by default. You don't recognize it, and you're tired of all these calls about extending your auto warranty. So you just let it go to voicemail, and then when you try to reconnect with Mary, she's already, she went to one of your competitors. If you uncheck this, keep original caller ID, What happens instead is you won't see customer Mary's phone number show up. You'll see your main company number. All right, so if we go back to the dashboard, this phone number that you selected under your company caller ID, that's the phone number that would show up on your cell phone. So it's a way to know, hey, this is a business call versus a personal call. Soft phone on the devices page, well, okay, you should read this warning message at least once. But on the devices page, this defaults and only allows you to add a third-party soft phone, right? So you would enter device name, you copy and paste the SIP username, click on the SIP password box here to reveal the password, so then you can copy and paste that, and then you copy and paste your account realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to program your third-party soft phone application or even device. All right, then you click on Create Device and then assign it to a user. For the VirtualPBX soft phone, you have to add that on the users page. So we'll be getting to that in just a little bit. Landline, same as cell phone. ATA would be for an ATA adapter, so you're using an analog device on a network, right? Usually people use that for like a fax machine. And then the web phone, you can add a web phone here on the devices page, but it won't work until you assign it to the user. The web phone has its own, it uses a login, but it uses your dash login, right? So that means it needs to be assigned to a user to actually have valid login credentials. Also, under the wrench icon here, under Edit, under Advanced Audio, you can double check your codecs. G711A and G711U are the ones you definitely want to have. Right? Opus is good for the VirtualPBX soft phone app. Restrictions. So you can restrict if a particular device can like make international calls, for example. International dialing, though, you do have to get enabled via our billing team. Right? External caller ID, you can select one of your phone numbers to be your outbound caller ID for a specific device. Right? Here's where you change the E911. You just select one of the phone numbers that has an address associated with it. And after each of these, you would click on Save Changes. Miscellaneous, most of the time doesn't come up, although for your physical VoIP phones, I'm gonna pick this one because it's a Yay link. Right, you'll also have a combo key, so you could set up the BLF keys here as well. All right, the Greetings Manager, this is where you see all your media files, whether they're text-to-speech, like this main hours menu TTS. You see the source is TTS, right? Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means you recorded it over the phone. You can upload files here, right? You just give it a name, find it on your computer, click on Create Greeting, and it will upload it. Again, it's that .mp3, .wav, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. You can download these files so you can listen to them to see if that they're still relevant or not. And if you click on the little wrench icon here, you can then say, change this into, right? So that way it's something that you could recognize from the pull down later. All right, groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, right? Used typically for departments. Up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number, and then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in this group. Click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name, right? So you can change the name at any time. Then you have these group call attempts, little arrows here to the right. So you can increase the amount of times a call is offered to your staff members in the group. Also, you can delete the group down here. On the members box, it says 5. So this is the order that calls are being offered to my staff members. Along the top here is our timestamps. This last one you can edit. So like I can change it down to 60 seconds if I want to. Now I have a funky order here, so I would click distribute, and now that equalizes out over time. If I don't like this order, let's say Peter just has assigned a big project, so he needs to focus more on that. I can click and drag him to the bottom. Now, I still haven't changed the ring order, right? He's still first, but if I click distribute, now he's last, right? So then it's going to ring through everybody before it gets to Peter, so hopefully one of these other staff members would answer the call first. Now, these are sliders as well, so you can adjust the ring times. So you can do something like what's referred to as blast ringing or ring all. All right, do something like this. So now when a call comes in, it's offered to everybody at the same time for the same amount of time, right, until someone picks up. Some things to be aware of. So for groups, your staff members can answer calls with a cell phone, a landline, or a VoIP phone, right? On an ACD queue, they can only answer calls with a VoIP phone, right? So no cell phones, no landlines. It's going to ring all the users' devices at the same time. So let's say Peter has 3 phones, right? He's got, say, a Yealink phone, he's got a cell phone, and he's got a web phone, right? When a call is offered to him from this group, all 3 of them are going to ring until he picks up, or in this case, if another staff member picks up. Now, even under a distribute, let's say Jan here, if he takes a call, right, and then another call comes in, he's going to hear a call waiting beep until it rolls past him. Now, if his phone allows him to disable call waiting, then he won't hear that call waiting beep. All right, extensions have, groups have extension numbers, right? You can add additional if you want them. They can also have their own phone numbers. If you have a phone number on a group like these 2 down here, this phone number works 24/7, right? It's not going to follow your hours of operations because that only applies to your main numbers, right? Also queues can only have either a phone number or an extension, right? One or the other. Groups can have both, right? And then we have the user features, or I'm saying group features. So ringback. So by default, right? So if I left this off, right? When calls come into a group, the inbound caller just hears that ringing sound. And that ringing sound is actually coming back from the user in the group, right? The group member, right? So here, if we go here, right? So I have these 4 people all ringing at the same time. So that ringback immediately is going to have that ring sound for my inbound caller. Now, if I decide to enable this and upload a media file, right, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono, this will play back instead of that ring sound. Now, the system has to get that ringing sound from my user's devices before it will play back this media file, right? So if for some reason, like I have it going one at a time, and let's say Peter's device is not giving back that ringing sound, that inbound caller is going to hear silence until it gets to the next person or the next device that provides that ringing sound. Next action, what do you want to do if no one picks up? Right, first you click enable, and then where are you sending them? Right, you can send back to your virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a call queue if you have it. You can send it to a specific phone. You can send it to another ring group. You can send it to a specific user, or you can send it to a voicemail box. And then you would click on Save Changes. Allow call forwarding. Just if you enable this, that means you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding, right? So like they're not going to be at their normal desk phone, but they still want to take group calls on their cell phone, right? Then they can do that, make use of call forwarding from their VoIP phone. And then caller ID prepend, you can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID. I usually recommend one or the other, right? This would show up on your users' VoIP phones so they know what the call is about, right? So if you have people who have multiple roles or they're in multiple groups, this will help them know what the call is about. All right, numbers starts you off on your numbers in use. So you see all your phone numbers and where they're going, or at least who they're going to. Got the little gear icon here so you can adjust the caller ID, E911, etc. Spare numbers, right? These are numbers you're not currently using. If you want to get rid of some of these numbers, right? So let's say I want to get rid of these two, right? Put a little check mark in front of them. And now I have this option to delete. And I confirm the deletion. And now they're off my account. So now I just reduce my phone bill, right? Because I have less phone numbers on my account. You can always buy numbers here, right? Local or toll free, just like anywhere else that we've already seen. And then we'll just add them as additional spare numbers. You can also click on port. This will begin the port process, and that just means moving a phone number from one carrier to another. So say from AT&T to VirtualPBX, right? So then you give it a name, and then you select US local or toll free. You click next. Then the system wants you to upload a copy of your bill and acknowledge that it's within 30 days. Right, it's going to ask you for the address associated, or actually the phone numbers you want to port, the address that's associated with them. It will then give you the opportunity to download a blank LOA or a letter of agency, which you will need to fill out and sign, and then you can upload it in that next step as well. Then there's 4 checkboxes it wants you to check and read and check, and then you submit. Right, then if it's successfully submitted, you'll get an email right away saying the system received your port request. You should get a second email from our porting team, and that lets you know someone actually, person actually viewed your documents, and they are then processing the port. Now, in terms of the LOA, right, it asks for company information and address. Right, that should match what your current carrier has on file for your phone numbers. It does ask for a signature. It can be a digital signature, or you can print it out, sign it, and scan it back in, right? But if you simply just type your name in twice, that's going to get rejected and delay your port. Now, once our porting team has taken a look at the documents, we then wait for the other carrier to respond. Now, typically, toll-free ports, if there's no problems, about 5 business days, give or take. Local numbers have a wider range, right? Some I have seen go through in 1 business day, but the typical average is 2 to 3 weeks. If there's a rejection, we don't get a lot of specific details. Like we'll be told the address zip code mismatch, right? They're not going to tell us, oh, you got 2 digits wrong, or you flipped it 2 digits, right? It'll just say, hey, it's wrong. Now, in that kind of situation, we double check to make sure we entered the information in properly, and then we can resubmit right away. But if the information matches what we have on the LOA, we have to come back to you saying, they said the address is wrong. And that is pretty much it. All right, let's go to users, right? So you see your users on the account. The gray person icon, standard user. Blue suit is a system admin. Up here at the top, you click on add user, right? First name, last name, then email address used for login. You need to be unique for each user. You then create a password for that user, and then you create an extension, right? This one is just suggesting extension 1012 because the system was started with extension 1000, but seriously, you can add whatever extension number you want. All right, create a voicemail box for the user. This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So let's say you create the user and then you added a Yailing phone to the user right away, that user can then pick up the VoIP phone, hit *98 on that Yailing phone. That's going to log them into this voicemail box you just created. Then the system will prompt them to create a PIN number for their voicemail box and then walk them through creating a voicemail greeting. Including the user in the company directory, you can always change that later. Then we have send emails to an alternate address. So by default, the system will send emails to the email address used for login, right? So like voicemails would go to this email address. If instead you wanted to go to a different address, you would check here and then enter in that different address, right? So then instead of going to the email address you used for login, those voicemail messages, for example, would go to the alternate email address. Same with password recovery or the soft phones credentials. And then this one here, send credentials to the user. I think that one's pretty important. If you're only creating one user, you just click on create user. If you need to add more, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name here. You can change their name, right? So if someone got married or changed their last name, you can change their credentials, right? So email address or password. You also have the option here to resend them the password reset email. You can change the voicemail box PIN number. This is especially important if it's this user is only using a cell phone or a landline. Here's the option to send to an alternate address. And here is the option to be in the company directory. This pull down here, right? This allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Here we have the time zone, right? So that way their voicemail timestamps are correct for their time zone. This is the display language for the web pages here for this user, right? So you can have English, French, German, or Russian. Ringing timeout by default is 20 seconds, right? So that's how much time the system will try to send a call to a device. Now, on Aaron's user here, we have the follow me feature already enabled. So that's why it's grayed out, right? So I would adjust his ring times based on that feature. Then we have his main extension number and then his caller ID. Users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Most of the time, there's not a need. Right? Users can have their own phone numbers. Right? You can add from spare, buy new. Right? They can have multiple phone numbers. And again, just like in groups, this phone number works 24/7. Right? Devices. You can add new devices, right? SIP phone, etc. Same options as we had before. Now, in the case of the soft phone, right? So new device, soft phone, right? We still get that warning message. And then when the box pops up, you see I have an extra line here. It says use third-party application. You click on that, and now it says use VirtualPBX application. And then I just need to give it a name. I click on create device, and then I click on save changes. So now Aaron is getting an email with his soft phone login credentials as well as download links. So then he just needs to download the app, log in, and then it would show up as a green device. All right, user features, caller ID number. This only comes up if a user has their own phone number. If you enable it, you select their phone number and click on Save Changes. This phone number then becomes their outbound caller ID, right? If I have this off, then it becomes that main number under the dashboard, right? That company caller ID number. Call forwarding, off, on, or hang, failover mode, excuse me. So your users can turn call forwarding on themselves, right? This is just the admin version of it, but your users can turn this on via the user portal, right? Either way, you choose desk phone or mobile phone, then you put +1 area code and phone number, you click on Save Changes. Failover mode is for your VoIP phone users. And as an admin, you would have to set this up. But basically what this does is if the VoIP phone that they primarily use goes offline, right, becomes unregistered, then the system will automatically route calls to this forwarding device that you set up. Now, this forwarding device should not already be a device on the user, right? In this case, Aaron only has a soft phone and a web phone, so I could use the forwarding device to be his cell phone. If Aaron had a cell phone already on his devices, then there's no point in making use of call forwarding because it would already be one of his ringing devices anyway. Right? Basically, when you forward it, it's just something you don't use every day. Hot desking, when it's enabled, this is a VoIP feature. You create a hot desk ID for your staff member, and then you click on Save Changes. This is probably more common now when people are going to hybrid scheduling and they don't need as much infrastructure, right? So it's Tuesday. Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 5. He picks up the handset of the VoIP phone that's there. He hits *11, right? That turns on hot desking on that device. The system then asks him for his hot desk ID. He enters that, and then it will tell him that calls will now come to this device. At the end of his day, actually, let's go back. So now any call going to Aaron's user, whether someone enters his extension number directly, or he gets a call from a group that he's a member of, or even a queue, right? It's going to ring at that desk number 5 that he's sitting at. The end of his day, he picks up the handset again, he hits *12, and that turns off hot desking. So the next time Aaron comes in the office, it will say he comes in on Thursdays, right? Someone's already sitting at desk number 5. He says hello to Angela, and he moves on and sits down at desk number 12. He does the same thing, right? Picks up the handset, hits *11, hot desk ID, and now calls are coming to him at that phone. The voicemail box feature, again, was enabled when the user was created. This is essentially default settings, which is voicemail gets left, we're sending an email to Aaron, and we're attaching that message, right? So it's going to have a MP3 file attached to that email. Now, the transcription is a plan-specific feature, right, where the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out as best it can. Now, one thing to know is that voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, the voicemail box is full and cannot accept any more. So you can click here, and that will delete the messages from the database after it sends out that notification. So that means that when a voicemail comes in, right, we send out that email with the attachment, then the system deletes it from the system. So your user can only then get their voicemails from their email, right? They're not going to be able to call in to listen to the voicemails. They're not going to be able to listen to it via the user portal. So again, there's a trade-off there. Faxbox, users can have their own Faxbox if you want them to, right? You just click Enabled. I recommend that you buy or use a spare number so it has its own phone number for the Faxbox. Right, Aaron is set up to be using an extension. So that means Aaron can only receive faxes, right? Because when he tries to send a fax out, the system's going to see, oh, he has a fax box. I'm going to use whatever fax box number as the caller ID. Well, 399 is not long enough for caller ID, so the fax would fail. Right, that's why you would want, for more versatility, you would want a full phone number. Oh, likewise, the other drawback for an extension is, right, that inbound, the person who's faxing to you, right, they'd have to call your main number and then enter 399 to send the fax, right? Then click on Send Fax. On an analog fax machine, right, physical fax machine, that should be possible, right? They either have a handset or they can have speakerphone, and in some cases they can just use additional like commas or the star key or something to add a pause, then enter the extension number. Some of your electronic fax services, though, may not allow you to fax to an extension number. Conference Bridge. You click Enable as an admin. The only thing you need to do is set up a conference room PIN number and then click on Save Changes. That PIN number your users can adjust via the user portal. Okay. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. When you first start off, it looks like this, right? It says do not ring on both devices. So then you uncheck a box so that way the system knows, oh, you want to make use of it. These are sliders, right? This is your timestamp, so I could change this to 60 because that's probably plenty. I can click on Distribute. I can click and drag just like in groups, and then click on Save Changes. Music on hold. You can have your users have their own hold music and just upload a file. .mp3, .wave, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, then click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. By default, when you enable it, it looks like this, because you have to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record. Right, inbound internal, coworker Bob called. Right, inbound external, customer Mary called. Outbound internal, I called coworker Bob. Right, outbound external, I'm calling customer Mary. And then click on Save Changes. Every account has some amount of storage included with it. It's going to vary depending on the plan. So you'd want to double check with our account services team on how much storage you have and what the overage is for going over. If you already have an Amazon Web Services account, you can actually link that to your Dash account and then have your call recording stored on AWS. And Do Not Disturb. As an admin, you can put a user on Do Not Disturb, meaning calls will go to voicemail. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. The ones with names in this third column here are your user voicemail boxes. If they don't, that means it's either, in the case of the main voicemail box, right, that's a system-generated voicemail. But otherwise, you can click here and create your own voicemail boxes for like your ring groups, right, or for your queues. You give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Click on Create Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, you can click on the wrench icon here, right? So you can adjust the voicemail box number or the PIN number. Under Advanced, then you have greeting media. So for a voicemail box you create manually, right, you would want to come here and then upload a media file, right? .wave, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono. Right, now, under basic settings, since you have this information, you could also just call into the voicemail box recorded over the phone. The temporary file, this would be for the out of office or vacation voicemail message. Right, so if there's something here, it's going to play. Right, if it's on none, then the media file plays. And that's something also your staff can record over the phone. That's an option when they call in. Recipients. So your user voicemail boxes, they have a recipient built in. For any voicemail box you have to create, you're going to want to click on Add New Recipient and then enter the email address. If you don't need to add one, then you would just click Save Changes. If you need to add multiple, you would just click on the Add button. Then you have options. So once you have a media file place and recipients, I would say click on Already Set Up. Up to you if you want to do the delete after notification. Right, you definitely probably want the attached messages to email though. Advanced routing. This is where direct inward system access is, DISA for short. Now, this feature is actually not enabled on new accounts at sign up. It's something you have to request of our account services team. But what DISA does allow you to do is you can call in on your cell phone, log in, and then make an outbound call. That outbound call will not show your cell phone's phone number, but your main phone number on your account, right? So it doesn't show you, display your personal caller ID. So once you have that feature enabled, you would come here under Advanced Routing. You would enable the feature itself. and it assigns a PIN number to you automatically. I recommend then you click Edit Settings and then add an extension number. And instead of using one that's next in my sequence, I would use an extension that is completely out of sequence, right? Then click on Save Changes. So now I can call into my main number that goes to the virtual receptionist. I would enter this extension number in. The system would then prompt me for this PIN number. I enter that, then I'll hear dial tone. Then I enter area code and phone number, and then I hear the sound of ringing, right, as I'm making an outbound call. And instead of my cell phone number showing up, oops. Right, it's this 408 phone number that shows up instead. Right, so it hides my cell phone number from the person I'm calling. Now, the reason that this is not enabled by default on new accounts is that this is someone figures out this extension number and PIN number, they can make outbound calls on your account and you may not realize it right away, right? Thus increasing your bill potentially. That's why I always disable it after I explain this feature. Now, a way to potentially know about calls on your account before your invoice would be the call logs here. Right, green arrow to the right, that's a call coming into the system. Yellow arrow to the left, that's an outbound call. And if I click on that, I can see, oh, this came from Mike's VoIP phone that he made a call out on. If I go a little bit longer, right, I can see more calls. Like I can see this inbound call came in and that no one picked up on this device, but because of this duration, right, difference, right, I only offered a call to this web phone for 20 seconds, right, and no one picked up, and then I went to voicemail. That's most likely what happened here. That's why there's that 30-second difference. You can download these. They come as a .csv file, right? You can go by month as well. The custom, you can change your date range. You can go back 1 year to get your call logs. If you need your call logs for some sort of compliance reason, I recommend you do this every month. Our engineers can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data's gone. Now, each of these calls, they have a little fire hydrant icon here, right? So you can click on that. It's going to create an email. In the body of the email, it's going to have the technical details. I strongly encourage you to write in the body of that email what you experienced or didn't experience, what happened, why are you reporting the call, essentially. And that goes to our support team directly. Feature codes, right? I've already talked about like the hot desking ones here. But these are ways for your VoIP phone users to access different Dash features directly from their phone. This information is a web page also under the support pages, so you don't have to log in every time to look at it. And there's also a document called Phone Commands Cheat Sheet. So it has all this information plus a little bit of text about how to use it. All right, so that's all been the dashboard. Let's go down here, the list here. Blacklist, this is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your account. Right, so you would click on Edit Blacklists. If you don't have one already, you would just click Add, and then you give it a name, and then you decide, are you going to block anonymous calls or not? Right? If you turn it on, that means you're blocking them. That means the system does not receive caller ID information, whether because the inbound caller decided not to show it, or for some reason it didn't come through properly. Right after that, you would just click Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, and you keep clicking Add to continue to add phone numbers. Once you're done, you would click on Save, and then you go back to Settings, and you make sure your list is over here on the right under Selected. Right, then you click Update. So now the phone numbers that are on this list, when they try to call any of my phone numbers, they get a busy tone, right? They're not getting through. right, the Fax Manager can show your inbound faxes on your various fax boxes. Right, you see the date, who it came from, the fax box it went to, the phone number. You can see the pages. You can download the file. You can see some technical details. Right, outbound faxes. Right, hopefully you see successes. But if we see a failed attempt, that means we had a problem communicating with the other fax machine. Right, you see the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, and you can download the file. You can click on the technical details here. Right, so status failed. Well, we already knew that. Now, sometimes it gives you additional information. Right, so subscriber absent, meaning it couldn't find the other device. Right, usually it says something like user busy, something of that nature. Now, email to fax logs. If you see a thumbs down, right, didn't go through. This means the system had a problem processing the request, right? So it never actually made the outbound call yet. Right, it tells you the email address. Here's the format that they sent the on the to field, date, the time. You can click on this little eyeball icon, and now it's going to give you more information. And the main thing here, no valid attachments. So that means that Mark here either did not include an attachment at all, right? He, typed it all up, hit send before sending the attachment, or he attached attached a file type other than PDF or TIFF. Right, now, sometimes we see the user doesn't exist. That would be like someone used a personal email address versus their work email address. Number Manager, this just takes you to your spare numbers where you can buy numbers, port numbers, etc. Reports is actually advanced reporting. This is a plan-specific feature. We do have a demo here on our YouTube channel. Go under videos, and I believe it's fairly quickly shows up, but it's advanced reporting demo. This allows you to create your own reports. It's a little bit more detailed than the call logs, but I would encourage you to watch that demo, and then if you're interested, to talk to our account services team. Voicemails, this takes you to your voicemail manager. You can go to any voicemail box on the account. So we can go to here, right? So you can see that a message was left, at what time, date and time, what phone number it came from, what number it went to, how long it was. You can listen to it. You can download it. You can see some more technical details. Right, you can see here that Mark's already marked this for deletion. But as an admin, I can click on here. I can change its status. I can also move it to a different voicemail box. Right, dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. Right, so this first one here, I'll just click edit onto it. Otherwise, you would normally click add new rule. Right, you give it a name. You choose a phone number on your account to use as the outbound caller ID. And then you select how to go about it. In this case, I said, hey, whenever my VoIP phone users dial a 408 area code phone number, just change their caller ID to this 408 phone number. And then I would click on Save Changes. The other way is this one here. I'm saying my staff members need to dial *550, then enter the area code and phone number they're going to call. When the system sees that, it will change it to this 323 phone number. And then click on Save Changes. So the area code one's a little bit easier on your staff, right? They just dial a number, it'll automatically change it. Just depends how many phone numbers you have on your account. The monitor, this is also a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members. Doesn't matter what device they're using, right? So like the cell phone directory that I talked about way back at the beginning, that's specific to the VirtualPBX cell phone app, right? It would only show the status of the VirtualPBX cell phone app, right? So if my colleague Jeff, for instance, has a Yealink phone on his user as well as a soft phone, right? The soft phone presence could show him as not on a call, so I could call him, but he could actually already be on a call on his Yealink phone. I wouldn't know it. The monitor, on the other hand, would show me that he is on a call and which device he's using, right? Because I can go by, oops, up here, devices, right? I could see which devices are in use. But even if I was just on employees, right? If he's on a call, it would show up yellow that he's on an external call. So then I would know it doesn't matter what device he's using, he's busy. Up over here, active calls would show your active inbound calls. Parked calls would show any calls that are parked as well as the parking spot number. The recording manager, this takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, which uses your Dash login to get in and shows your recordings on the system, where you can download them, play them back, or delete them. If you link to AWS, the recording manager would actually display here what's showing up on AWS versus opening a new tab. Webhooks is also a plan-specific feature. You'd actually need to talk to our sales team about this, but this allows you to create links between Dash and other software. Right? You basically would create a new webhook, fill out these parameters, and then you're linking it to something like Zapier, AutoCode. There's a couple others. Now, also on our YouTube channel, we have an introduction to Zapier webinar that was, I think it's now 2 weeks old. Definitely check that out. It talks about the webhooks as well as linking to Zapier. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user has their own individual user portal. Here you can see voicemails. Now, if a user has the delete after notification set up on their voicemail box, right, there'd be nothing here. Right. In this case, you can see that I've listened to my messages. You can see, the date and time they were received, where they came from, what phone number they were trying to reach, how long. You can play back. You can delist. Your user can then download. Right. Put a check mark, and then you can say, hey, is it new? Mark it as listened or mark it for deletion. Call history. Right. Users can see their own call history from their devices. Faxes would only apply if they have their own fax box. The contact list, this shows all your contacts within your Dash account. Right? As a user, I cannot edit this, right? But I can view other users, their extensions, the groups, etc. Conference tab, kind of cut off here, but this is where your users would update their moderator PIN as well as their participant PIN number. They can choose if people attending, when they first enter, are they muted? Are they deafened? As well as, are you going to play entry and exit tones? When you're in a conference and you have this page open, here you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock a conference so other people can't join. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the call. Also, when you're in a conference, like for the individual participants, you can mute a specific person as well as kick out a specific person. Settings and devices tab. This is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. And then they would click on Save Changes, as well as see the status of their devices. All right, ACD queues, because I think I skipped that completely. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. Now, this feature is available with certain plans and is an add-on to that plan, right? So you might have to change plan, right? So upgrading your plan and your pricing, and then this is an additional add-on per queue. We also have, this is our standard queues. We also have ACD Queues Pro. We have a demo here on YouTube for ACD Queues Pro, so you can take a look at that. Creating a queue, I'm just going to click here and edit an existing queue. Right, you give it a name, and then you choose to either have an extension number or a phone number. Excuse me, a phone number. Then you have the queue routing strategy. Round robin will equalize out over time. You have ring all on the standard queues, but it's not available on the pro queues, so it rings everybody at once. You have most idle, meaning whoever's been waiting the longest for call gets the next call that comes in. You have least calls. That means least amount of connected calls, right? So if Bob has spoken to 2 customers, Mary has spoken to 5, Bob would get the next call, right? And then you have leased offers, which is the combination of connected and missed calls. So let's say Bob was offered 20 calls, Mary was offered 5. Under leased offers, Mary gets the next call that comes in. And then those last 2 examples, let's say Bob and Mary have been working for a couple hours, and then Dylan logs in, right? So he's at 0 for either completed calls or offered. So on either one of those 2 strategies, Dylan gets the next call that comes in. And he would continue to be the first one to get a call until he equals one of the other users. Hold treatment, which is kind of cut off. You can upload, again, .wave, .mp3.ogg. The pro queues, you also have the ability to announce the position in line or announce the expected wait time, as well as have multiple media files play at different points. The queue timeout, measured in seconds, is how much time people can wait on hold. Queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold, right? This is on top of whoever's already speaking to staff members. The timeout immediately if empty. That means if I have no staff members logged into the queue and a caller comes into the queue, the system will treat it as if they already hit this 3,600 seconds. Escalation call flow after timeout. So after that 3,600 seconds, what do you want the system to do? And you choose where you want it to go. Right, voicemail box, another group, different queue, etc. The 0 out call flow, if you have something selected here, then you're allowing the person waiting on hold to press 0, and then you would send them to, say, a voicemail box or another group or queue. Right? If you set this to none, then they can't press 0 to get out, right? They have to wait on hold or hang up. Agent behavior. First up, we have agent recovery time measured in seconds. How much time after that they're done with a queue call before the system will offer them a second call from the queue. Right? Usually 0 to 30 is what we see. Force away on, reject, or missed. If this is enabled, this means if an agent misses a call, right? They didn't answer an offered call, the system puts them in away mode until they mark themselves ready again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. 20 is the default. Again, currently on queues, you can only accept calls with a VoIP phone, right? A SIP phone, soft phone, or even a web phone. Right? Either create queue or save changes in my case. Once you have created queues, you can click over here on the person with the headset icon for members. So these staff members are available to be in my queues. If I click on manage members, right, that list now is over here on the right because these are people already that can be in my queues. These staff members are not currently able to join queues whatsoever. Now, if I click on a name and then click on add it as members, right now Jan is moved over here and right down here at the bottom. And likewise, I can remove someone from the queue as well. So once you assign people as to be available in queues, you would then go back to the queues themselves. If you click on a queue, you'll see that I'm logged in here, right? But you can click on agents. And so I can click and drag to add Jan here to this queue. And once you have agents assigned to a queue, you can click on managers and then click and drag who you want to be a manager. And then save changes. For your staff members, right, they can use feature codes to log in, right? *20, *21, *22. I usually just use the web page, right? So I would just click on ACD queues. Now, let me end my session here real quick. All right, so I would start my day, right? Click on begin session. Now, that first time, especially you log in ever, right? You want to click on your phone icon here and make sure you select your VoIP phone that you want to use. That also becomes important if your staff is using hot desking, right? So because they could be changing devices from time to time, right? Anytime there's a device change, you want to double check and click on your little phone icon. And then once you're ready, right, you click on where it says away. Now I mark myself as ready. I turn green, right, from red to green. If I'm blue, that means I'm on an inbound call. If icon turns yellow, that means I'm on an external call, right? So either someone dialed my extension directly or I made an outbound call. And if I'm gold, I'm on recovery time. All right, so lunchtime, right? I would mark myself away. So that way I'm not taking calls. And then end of my day, I would click end session. So yeah, that is everything. So I'll just take it back to the dashboard. And I haven't seen any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream today. I thank you for your time. As I said before, we'll be here on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. These are recorded, so you can watch them at any time in case you couldn't make it through the whole thing. And again, feel free to make use of that Zapier webinar, Introduction to Zapier, the Advanced Reporting, and the ACDQs Pro. Again, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.